Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome back. Welcome back to the show. This is episode 668 of the Two Dumb Yinzers. I want to say to everybody this morning, welcome back. Yeah. It's Friday, guys. It is the eve of the Cincinnati Bengals Pittsburgh Steelers game.
Yeah.
The very likely the most likely the Steelers' last home game of the season. Uh, it's tomorrow. It's the last regular season game, guys. I can't even believe it. But we'll get into that in just a moment. We have a very special guest on today. And this guest is special for many reasons, and we'll get into that as the hour goes on. I want to welcome everybody, Derek Moye. Derek Moye, welcome to the show.
Thank you, fellas. Thank you for having me.
Of course,
Appreciate
Derek.
it. Thank you.
Of course, Derek grew up literally 2.5 miles from where I did, so he is. This is a special interview for me. He was younger than I, but I did watch him grow. I did watch him go through sports, and the more I watched, the more I became impressed. Because Derek Moye was not only a high school football star, not only a state sprinter, a state gold champion sprinter, he went on to Penn State and was not only a player at Penn State, he became one of the better receivers at Penn State.
Yeah.
And he then advanced on to the pros, spent brief time in Pittsburgh, went to Miami. And every time I turned around, Derek was accomplishing things. And I used to say, you know what? As many guys that come out of our valley that you got to be proud of, that go on and do amazing things in sports in particular. I thought Derek is, you know what? The fact that you grew up 2.5 miles from me, we drank the same water basically, and we shopped at the same stores. We got our sneakers at the same places. So this is really special to me. Earlier in the week, we did talk to Chad Brown, who used to be a Steeler. Last week, we see Chucky Jacoby. But this week, guys, as I said, this is more special. This is home. This is backyard.
It's personal.
It's personal.
Feels good.
And as I see Derek's brother around the town every once in a while that they grew up in. And I ran into Derek's football coach from high school not too long ago. So as I said, there's no way we cannot not invite Derek Moye onto the show. So guys, I want you to welcome Finch. I want you to welcome Mike. I want you to welcome Derek today to the show. I look forward to this one all week. And Derek, let's get into it, man.
Yes,
Obviously,
sir.
the big story going into the weekend, obviously, is the Steelers. But you know what? I'm going to push that aside briefly. I want to get to you guys about this Penn State football team. All season long, I watched this team. They had to come back and to beat West Virginia. they had a rough outing against somebody, and then they finally get it started late in the game. And I thought, you know what, this Penn State team, I'm not quite sure what to make of them. But here we are. We're sitting with 4 teams left in the first ever 12-team college playoff, and one of them is Penn State. Derek, what do you accredit to this team to get this far? Because when you watch them, I'm not really blown away. Like times, you've seen great college football teams just methodically do what they do on the field. What is it about this team that got them to this point, and what's it going to take to win a national championship? They're as close as anybody right now. What do you think, man?
I mean, I think that throughout the season, I mean, it's been something that's been building up over time, really since Coach Franklin has gotten to Penn State. It's been year after year after year after year of progression, and I think we're finally getting to that point to where we're starting to really actually be in the conversation, and obviously we're in the Final Four right now, and being able to compete for national championships. And myself as a fan, it's like, and I'm sure I know a lot of other fans as well. It's like you get a little impatient sometimes. You think it should have happened a little bit sooner. But I think we're exactly where we're supposed to be. And this team right now, man, we have a lot of really good playmakers, a lot of really good guys all over the field. Drew Aller, obviously, Tyler Warren, the 2 running backs, Singleton and Katron Allen. So those weapons, and then paired with the defense that we have, and then on top of that, I think we definitely, you always need a little bit of luck of the draw. And when it came to the bracket, I mean, we definitely lucked out with our draw.
Absolutely.
Oh, big time. It's like I love seeing all the SEC teams complain about Penn State's draw, but unlike those teams, like Penn State beat everyone in front of them. So luck of the draw, but they went out, they handled business, and it's nice to see some of the receivers start to step up late in the season too. It's been like, it feels like for the past couple seasons, it's been like who's going to step up in the receiving corps, because we've been leaning heavily on Tyler Warren and, like you said, the 2 running backs. It was nice to see Amari Evans with that nice touchdown catch, and I think it was like the first quarter to start it off there. I think if he can get rolling in these next 2 games, I think Penn State can. I think they have a chance.
No, absolutely. I agree with you. I think, excuse me, the receiver position has kind of been for the last couple of years. It's kind of been that question mark, and this year it's still somewhat that, but like the guys like Amari Evans and Harrison Wallace, they've really kind of shown the promise that they have, and I think it's just really coming down to them playing well and in the right time of the season, which is right now, and they're seeming to be doing so. Hopefully, we're able to continue that this upcoming weekend against Notre Dame, and then obviously going on into hopefully compete for that national championship as well.
Yeah, and I'm hoping too, like you just lean heavily on the run game with Singleton and Allen, let those guys soften up the defense to open up the pass game just a little bit more, so those two can start cooking, and that way it's not heavily reliant on Tyler Warren to be the number one receiver, the number one tight end, the number two quarterback in some plays.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got two running backs like Katron Allen and Nick Singleton, man. It's like, feed them. Obviously, you do need to get Tyler Warren involved, but he's so versatile that I don't want to say it's easy because everyone's keying on him, but there's multiple ways to get him involved to where it makes it. I'm sure it makes it a little bit easier on the coordinator. But old school football, Beaver County football, if you will,
Yep.
run the ball,
Yeah.
give the ball to Katron Allen, give the ball to Nick Singleton, and let's play some defense too.
Oh yeah, and that defense, not just Abdul Carter, but oh, number 33, his name's slipping my mind. Big D
Is that
tackle. He's been playing well all season long, and then that secondary too. Got ball hawks back there. It's a team that it's built right for a national championship, and if they can hold off Notre Dame, and if my only worry is Ohio State again. That's just the always seems to be the thorn in Penn State's side is Ohio State. But I think it would be fitting if Penn State handles business against Notre Dame and then go down to the showdown to be a Big Ten showdown for the national championship.
If I could cut in 1 second, I know you both are big Penn State guys, of course. Of course, Derek and Mike is a huge Penn State fan. My question to you guys is this: do you, providing we could beat Notre Dame, that's going to be a big game, no doubt about it. Do you guys want to see Ohio State in the national championship? Would that mean more as a Penn State fan to get them guys? I know winning against them would be amazing,
Yeah.
but just the idea of facing this team, of course. Let me kind of backtrack a little bit. If we were good in Monaca, you didn't want to get Rochester because they were better and they were going to. So you always had that. Yes, this was your rival. So do you guys really want Ohio State in the national championship, or would you rather go the other way and get Texas again if we could beat Notre Dame?
Speaking for myself, I don't care who we get.
Yeah.
You getting the national championship is having that chance to compete for, what you set up for at the beginning of the year is the ultimate goal, obviously. But having the chance to overcome Ohio State and beat them for it all, it would just make it just that little
Yep.
bit much more sweeter.
It would be
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Absolutely.
As a fan of like watching some of those games that were back and forth, and then like Ohio State creeps away at the end to where it looks like it was like a dominating victory. If you just look at the score sheet, like for Penn State, you got those guys to win. As a fan, like you said, it would be so much sweeter. Like yes, we vanquished them. It's like when I don't know when a team finally beat Kansas City. It's like the giant has been slain. So as a fan, I would love to see that.
And I think I would add on too, man. I mean, just the fact that it's two Big Ten teams,
Mm-hmm.
two teams from up north, where the teams in the South, they and rightfully so, they get a lot of credit for the
Absolutely.
the dominance that they have in college football for the past 20 years or so. But just having two teams from the North, two teams from the Big Ten compete for the national championship, I think would be pretty cool.
And the bragging rights would be outrageous. This is
Out.
not only, you know what I mean? Beating or facing Ohio State every year is always a challenge, but to get in the national championship to beat them, you guys, I would be behind you 100%. I, of course, am a Pitt fan. I'm going to get to this message on the board real quick for
Ugh.
Derek. Derek, let's see. BSHAF says Warren is a beast coming from a Pitt fan. No two ways about it. That Tyler Warren you guys are talking about, I'm watching these games. Is he going to be one of these guys that ends up in the NFL as a tight end, like a Kerry Kittles, somebody that's a big name at the tight end position in the NFL? Do you think?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I absolutely do. I think just when you watch him, just obviously his size and just his athleticism,
Yeah,
I feel like every game that he plays, they're showing his basketball highlights. I want to say
yeah,
he was a baseball player in high school, and for me, I was similar in that sense of being a multi-sport athlete in high school, and I just think that in the day of specialization, I think that you are able to translate so many different things from those other sports into onto the field. And I think that Tyler Warren is really just a great and a tremendous example of those other sports kind of showing off on the football field.
And I don't know if I meant George Kittle. If I said Kerry Kittle, I grew up
You
in the
did say
'90s.
Kerry.
It was a whole different
I
guy.
thought that, but
I do apologize, but you are right. As I said earlier in the show, Derek, you were a gold medal sprinter in high school. You were, of course, the football star that we know. And also, again, I did see you play basketball. And of all those guys that showed up with you in the black and gold uniforms, you dunked, I think, 3 times in that game. The most impressive athlete out there. Even with AB chucking up 3-pointers about 97% of the game, you did. You carried the show on your shoulders. I think Cam had a nice slam at one point, which I was surprised to see him get up there. But very impressive, man, from top to bottom. There's no two ways about it. Derek Moye. So that's a little bit of the Penn State talk. Of course, we wanted to pick your brain. Realistically, though, what is it going into this week's game? Because, again, Notre Dame, they certainly surprised me along the way. I didn't know they was going to look as good as they did. And another big surprise, going back to Ohio State, coming back on the revenge game against Oregon, it was amazing what they were able to do to turn the tide. So, going into this week against Notre Dame and hopefully maybe Ohio State after that, Texas possibly, what is it that Penn State got to do? Of course, that defense always plays a big role. Every game I watched, I'm a Pitt guy. Every game I watch at Penn State, I notice that defense is just so strong. I thought SMU was going to be able to get something going because again, SMU scored about 1 million points against Pitt. That defense shut them down. This past week against Boise, Genty comes out. The defense gets up 100 yards, but it was about 3 yards a carry. Is that going to be what carries Penn State in this for the rest of this journey into the playoffs, Derek? Or is Drew Aller in the offense going to be because to me it feels, as you said, a lot like Western Pennsylvania, Beaver County football. Is that going to be what it takes and what they're going to have to continue to do to be successful, or is there going to be some adjustments? And of course there is, but are they going to stick with their main, what got them to this point? In other words, where these other teams made drastic changes to become more successful along the way?
yeah, no, I mean, I would absolutely say that's what they're going to have to do. And my prediction, I think for this upcoming week, I think it's going to be an old school football game. I think it's going to be a low scoring old school football game. And as we were talking about earlier, I think it is going to come down to on Penn State side, at least, I think it's going to come down to one of those two receivers, stepping up and being able to make a play in some big situations that I'm sure that they'll get the opportunity to.
I agree. I can't wait. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to guess that you're going to pick Penn State. Any kind of prediction on this game?
I mean, I would just say I definitely, I'm going with Penn State, obviously, but I would I've never been a fan of Notre Dame by any means.
Yeah.
But they do have a few Steeler alumni sons on their team, so
they do.
That's something that's pretty cool. Being like the Jordan Clark, I think Plaxico Burress' son, Taylor's son's on the team.
I think Jerome's son.
Jerome Bettis.
Yeah, Jerome Bettis. So I mean, that's something that's pretty cool to follow and keep up with. But I definitely can't turn my back on Penn State. I think it's going to be a low scoring, hard hitting, run heavy football game, and I'm hoping and I do think that we'll come out on top.
And is that the kind of game that Penn State does need to happen? Do they need to have Notre Dame play their game, basically keep it low scoring, keep it hard hitting? Do you think that's the game that Penn State needs to win this game?
You know what? I don't know if I'm not gonna say if they need it or not. I think that's just kind of what both teams are coming in and probably anticipating. And I think both teams are probably coming in and looking forward to that type of game. And it kind of suits both teams' style of play, in my opinion. And it's for me. I was an offensive player, obviously, but that's the style of football that I enjoy watching too.
Yeah.
Quick question for you, Derek.
Go ahead, guys.
I'm sorry. Just in general, this new format for the college football playoffs has been spectacular this season. It's hard to believe that it's going to stay this good every single year where you don't see a top 4 team in the top 4. If you went back to the old way, it would be Georgia and Oregon this year, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's so cool to see teams in there that probably wouldn't have had much of a shot at a national championship in previous years, and the excitement of the college football playoff the last few years, and then this year expanding to 12. Do you have any comments on that, and how do you think that's just it's just the coolest thing?
No, I agree. I think this college football playoff is probably the most exciting I've ever been about any sporting event that I haven't necessarily been a part of.
Yeah. I feel like it's making fans. It's a
Yeah.
fan creating thing. I'm not a big college football guy, but you know what? I've been watching these games, and they've been awesome.
That's the. I mean, there's nothing like playoff football.
Oh yeah.
There's nothing like playoff football. I will say, I mean, I do think, we touched on a little bit about Penn State kind of getting the luck of the draw, and
Yeah.
there's some things that they probably got to clean up because the 4 teams who got the bye, none of them were able to get a win.
Yeah, they
so,
all failed. Yeah.
yeah, so
That's
you got to see,
insane.
Boise State, Arizona State getting buys, and it's like, okay,
Exactly.
should that really be how it is? Should the Oregon Ohio State matchup should that have been a second round matchup? Like,
True.
in my opinion, it should not have been. But you got to kind of go roll with the punches and play who's in front of you.
Absolutely. You know what? It's kind of a double-edged sword, and I agree with you on that as well, Derek. It's kind of bizarre that the top 4 seeded teams, the 4 teams that had the bye, they all get eliminated in the first game they play. I don't know if that's good for.
Also, no
I
SEC.
know SEC, and I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. However, I tell you what, it drew ratings through the first couple rounds of the playoffs. I think that certainly helps. And as Finch said, I think that this is certainly growing the fan base even stronger for college football for a few reasons. I'm a Pitt fan. Pitt never is really, it has a chance all the way up until 7-0 this year before they lost the rest of their games. You're thinking, you know what, my team has a chance. And you know what, as long as you're not hearing Georgia every year, Oregon every year, Ohio State for that matter, it gives the rest of the fans a reason to be fans, to be excited, and to say, you know what, we have a chance at this. Even if you don't, Pitt was 7-0, and you really felt in the back of your mind this team isn't going to, but you have that chance. And I think that does so much for college football. I just think they have to figure out something for those bye teams because, again, where have you ever seen every bye team get eliminated in the first game they play in any sport ever?
Yeah, and speaking of that real quick, one of our viewers has a question, Derek, about that. Is there something to like the rust versus play thing? It seems when you're in season playing for big stakes, rust shouldn't be an issue, especially if you're 20 years old.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I think it's like something to be said for momentum. Like an Oregon team, they hadn't lost the whole year, and then they take that week off, and it's just like you're used to just going and going and going, and you get out of your routine in a sense, and kind of getting back on that routine. It can be, and it doesn't always have to be, but it can be a little bit difficult for certain teams, certain coaches, certain players. So I mean, I definitely think that's something to potentially look into. But it goes back the same thing in the NFL. It's like, is it some of those teams? It's like, do you want to buy? Do you not want to buy?
Right.
So I mean, I think it's just one of those things you always have to ask, and it's tough. And I think it's really a team to team, a coach to coach, and player to player type deal.
Guys, any more on Penn State or college football for Derek before we do move on?
I got a quick one for you, Derek. Honest opinion, is the NFL calling James Franklin right now, or are they thinking about talking to James Franklin?
You know what? I mean, that's I've never even I haven't really heard anybody say that, so I'm not really sure.
Neither have I, and that's what I was kind of curious because he's been putting
Yeah.
on a heck of a standing the last couple of years, and Penn State has really, literally come up from the actual basement after the whole Joe Pa thing and all that years and years ago, and it took a long time for a lot of people to get back on board with Penn State, myself included. I was kind of mad at the organization after that. Obviously, great players have come since then, yourself included, but it's good to see them back in the spotlight, and James Franklin is a huge part of that. You got to love that guy and what he's doing.
No,
Especially if he could pull off the big national championship
Oh my
win.
goodness, yeah! Especially if he could beat Ohio State of all teams. He would be an absolute PA legend. He would be that guy.
No, I agree with you, and I don't think from an alumni standpoint, a fan standpoint, Letterman standpoint, I don't want to see him go. I think obviously he's not a Penn State, like he didn't graduate from Penn State,
Right.
but he's as Penn State as it gets. I've since the time that he's got there, he's done nothing but, in my opinion, he's done nothing but great things as far as obviously the football program, but he's done a really good job of bridging the gap between, Letterman like myself and kind of the current players, because for however long it was Joe Paterno from his last year was my senior year, 2011, and he was started like 1960 or something like that.
Yeah, right.
So like there was no bridging the gap. It was like all the players who played in 1980 knew the guys from 1990 to 2000. And something I think that goes maybe unnoticed or untalked about, Coach Franklin, he's done an amazing job of just kind of keeping Letterman from, the 90s, 2000s, the 10s, to Letterman who's played for him, kind of keeping that solidarity of, hey, we're all Penn Staters. We all built this together. And that's something that I, greatly appreciate.
Amazing.
All right, guys, let's get ready to turn the page. Mike, if you want to address the latest message on the board with just go ahead and handle that. I'm going to get ready for the NFL here.
Yeah, does Franklin, like, when someone said on the board, like, James Franklin has to win the big game. That seems to be what's been eluding him. His career is like, quote unquote, that signature win. But right now, it feels like he has two, and like he's answered those critics' bells right there. Like, you win 2 playoff games. That kind of shows that, yeah, you can win the big one, and everything's finally come together.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, but I think at the end of the day, fans a lot of
We
times
want
are going to
more.
be fans, and you always you always want that ultimate goal of the national
Yeah.
championship, and if you don't get that, it's like, okay, what do we need to do to get that? And I think a lot of the
Yeah.
time it's like, okay, get rid of the head coach, but in my opinion, I mean, that's just not a good
Yeah.
suggestion in my opinion.
Yeah, especially the way the program has continued to get better and better each year under Franklin.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally every year it progresses. Some of the guys that we're getting in there are, like the recruiting aspect, they're just phenomenal players that are coming in, and they're doing a great job to, to develop them year in, year out. I think if you just look at the combine, from the time that he's got there till now, just if you look at some of those times, and some of those, like the weights and things that they're doing like that, it shows that they're really, really, really developing the players.
Let's make a transition, and this is one that Derek is certainly familiar with. We're going to take off the Penn State helmet. We're going to put on the Steeler helmet. We got last regular season game of the year. This ended up being a big game. As we were sitting at 10-3, we were top of the division. We had a tiebreaker over the Ravens. We had possibly the opportunity to win the division at that point. Things were feeling pretty good. And then we hit this gauntlet of teams. No surprise. We knew the Philadelphia, the Baltimore, and the Kansas City game was coming. We all seen it on the schedule. And then things kind of fell apart. Now, Cincinnati becomes a very interesting game because the Bengals, they could make the playoffs this weekend. If we recall, they did pass a lot. They pass a lot all the time. Burrow, very efficient, maybe the best passer in the league. We managed to score 44 points, outscoring the Bengals 44-38 in that particular game. Now, the season's on the line for Cincinnati, Derek. Does this game, I mean, of course it's going to be different than the first game was, but what do we have to do to be able to outscore Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengal offense once again? Because the defense ain't great. We all know that. Cincinnati's defense is like a wet paper bag. But at the end of the day, between Chase and Burrow, these guys, they put up a lot of yards, a lot of points. And for not having the best record in the league, sitting around 500, they are the top in every passing and receiving category out there. What do the Steelers got to do to make sure we can shut these guys down? To be honest, whatever equation gets us to playing Houston in the first round, that's what I want. But right now, let's just talk about this Bengal game. What is what's going to need to be done by the Steelers to be able to continue and stop this 4-game? If it's a 4-game losing streak going into the playoffs, I think the fans are just going to be totally pessimistic. And but what can spark this team? What do the Steelers got to do to beat the Bengals? And what can we do, moving forward, Derek, to not let this 10-3 start go to a waste?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that to your point, I think that the Bengals offense, they're going to get theirs. They're going to score. They're going to have Chase is going to have his yards, his catches. T. Higgins the same. Chase Brown has really come on. I'm not sure. I know he got injured last week, so I'm not sure if he's going to play this week or not.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, I think if we're able to win the turnover battle, create a few turnovers, whether it be fumbles or interceptions, and then protect the ball on the offensive side. I think that's a good recipe. Obviously, on the offensive side, George Pickens, doing what he does, making the plays that he makes, I think that's going to be a huge part. And then really having that, I think having a second receiver step up, whether it's Mike Williams, Calvin Austin, Van Jefferson, somebody step up, making some plays away from Pickens, and continuing to run the ball well. That's kind of the Steelers' MO. And I think if we're able to do that and have a secondary receiver kind of step up to be able to make some plays, I definitely think that we're going to put ourselves in a good position to not only beat the Bengals, but potentially, get that first playoff win in a very long time.
See, now I kind of look at it the same way. it seemed to me, even when Pickens was healthy, even when he's in the lineup, even when he's producing, you're missing that guy on the other side of the field. I told Mike all offseason, I said, we got to get a number 2. Of course, then you run into the Brandon Ayuk issues, and then you run into the Devontae Adams issues, and then you're running into this guy. This guy was going to come, and he was injured. This guy. So that's been my opinion all year. I think that that just takes away, obviously, to not have another talented receiver on the other side of the field to take – to give George Pickens the opportunities, the open looks, everything like this. My first thought was, why can't we have Derek Moye in there as that other receiver? But that's besides the point. But Derek, do you think that played a big role again for somebody like Russ? May have a little tougher time seeing over the line, having few of the issues just for being a shorter guy. I think having another talented receiver, number 2, if you will, would have certainly went a long way this football season.
No, absolutely. Just because, when you have that guy that who is, he's the established guy, you're not necessarily, I won't say not worried about another guy, but, somebody who's still proving themselves in a sense.
Right.
You're able to lean the coverage towards them and have that safety over top. And, when you do have that other guy and then you also throw in, you have Freiermuth work in the middle, it really, it's really going to stretch that defense horizontally, which is ultimately what's going to provide success for a vertical passing game.
Absolutely, Mike.
Real quick about that number 2 receiver, a lot of fans are clamoring for Roman Wilson to start this week since he's off IR. Realistically, from your perspective, how ready could he be to come in without really practicing all season long, without developing a rapport with the quarterback, with more or less the entire offense? Is that realistic for a rookie to just jump in with no real practices to be ready for a more or less a must-win game and a playoff game?
I just want to jump in real quick. I do apologize, fellas. It was announced this morning that Logan Lee, Roman Wilson, and Cole Holcomb are rolled out.
Okay.
But I mean, you could go ahead and continue.
I didn't see that. If I would have asked that question.
Yeah, the latest I'm seeing is them 3 gentlemen are out, and Dante Jackson is questionable with that pinched nerve in his back. That seems to be all the injuries for the Steelers. But Roman Wilson, great question, Derek.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would say like it's going to vary guy to guy, because I don't know Roman at all, because he very well, he might have that mindset if he's been on an injured reserve, but he's been taking mental reps from from week 1, and if he has the physical abilities to go along with that, then he very well could have been able to step in this week and make some plays. But it's also one of those things. It's like I'm not counting on it,
right.
just because at the end of the day he's a rookie. And then I think he was a 3rd round pick, I believe.
Yeah, 3rd round pick, yeah.
So when you're talking about week 18 of the season and he hasn't played any downs, been on injured reserve, like I said, it's not completely out of the realm of possibility, but it's like not one of those things that I think that as a fan or as a former player, I would say that I would count on.
Yeah, so if it was someone who, say, like a Mike Williams, who's been in the league a while for almost a decade plus, he's someone who could have been if he was in that situation, not like a 3rd round rookie.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because he obviously understands the speed of the game.
Yeah,
he understands some of the checks and adjustments that need to be made just from an overall standpoint. And it would really come down to his understanding of of the offense and just being able to go out there and play without thinking.
Jeff?
Yeah, nothing else to say about that. I mean, those guys aren't going to be able to play anyway. It would be nice to see them in there.
It would have been nice to have seen them, but yeah, like it's just we get questions on the show about it, and I see it on Twitter all the time. People asking like, "Why isn't he playing? Why isn't he playing?" It's like today was the perfect opportunity to ask someone that's a little bit more knowledge than we do.
Speaking of which, Derek, you played under Coach Tomlin. Tomlin in Pittsburgh, because we are so fickle. And we, from week to week, depending on how the game goes, it really dictates the way we think and live our lives here in Western PA. And from week to week, Tomlin is a Hall of Famer, and the next week they have his head on a platter.
He lives rent-free in our heads here.
He does live rent-free in our heads. You played for him. You worked with him every day. Give us your true, unbiased scoop on Mike Tomlin, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's going to be biased because I did play for him, and I would say I'm a big fan of him just as a coach, and then just from the experience that I have of him being my coach, it even made me more of a fan of him. I think he's one of those people where he's he is who he is, and when you see him talking on the podium, it's like that's who he is in the in the team meetings, and we're starting to get a peek of that now with Hard Knocks.
Yes.
And I'm a huge fan of him. I think that he is one of the top coaches in the NFL, and I don't think that we're going to find a better coach than him. But I would be remiss to say, like, I do think that we need to clean some things up and and win that first playoff game in a while.
Yes.
But I think that he's the guy to do it. And as I said, I'm living in Rochester, New York right now, so we have a lot of Buffalo fans. We're Buffalo Bills fans. I'm in
Yes.
Buffalo Bills territory, and I have some guys that'll ask me about Coach Tomlin, and then, I'll kind of say, like, you know what, in Pittsburgh, a lot of the people in the fans, or excuse me, a lot of the fans in Pittsburgh, are on the fence about him, and they go
Yeah.
back and forth, and it's like it's been like this for the past, I don't even know how many years now,
Right.
and they're like, what? Like they're really like not they want to get rid of him. They don't want him to be the coach, and they're like, well, if he leaves, he's welcome to come to Buffalo.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I think there's 31 other teams that would love to
Well,
have a guy
that's-
like Mike Tomlin.
That's the
Yes.
argument that I've had here on the show. Sometimes we get guys on here that argue against. Sometimes we get people that argue for. But my argument is this: he is very successful, probably more successful than 99% of the coaches in the NFL. It's very difficult to get to the NFL or to get to the championship and win a Super Bowl, which is right now, it just kind of seems like Kansas City's times, as it was New England's time when Tom Brady was there. But at the end of the day, let's say we get rid of Tomlin, he goes somewhere else, we bring somebody else, and we're not guaranteed to get the success that Tomlin's brought consistently since 2008. I mean, you could get a guy that comes in and he gets us 3-4 wins a season for the next 3 seasons. Pittsburghers will lose their mind. So I think that's one of the things that Pittsburghers, we don't look far enough down the road, because again, there's nobody that's really better in a long-term consistency, with the exception of guys like Andy Reid, maybe, and somebody else. He is one of the top 3 coaches in the league. No two ways about it. He's won a Super Bowl, so you can't even say that he's never did that. You're probably not going to get somebody as good as he is if you would replace him. And I think that's where Pittsburghers are wrong with this, being on the fence with Mike Tomlin.
No, I agree. I think in a sense with our coaches, we've been spoiled, and I think you can relate it to the same thing with Ben. We were very spoiled with him for
Absolutely.
however long it was, and he's
Yeah.
a Hall of Fame quarterback. And
Absolutely.
when he's done, it's like, dang, we were pretty spoiled to have him as our quarterback.
And Derek, I know you're roughly about 10 years younger than I am, and I lived through the 90s, and I was going to high school and stuff in the 90s. And I was there when the Steelers weren't winning Super Bowls, and in the 80s when I was a kid, they weren't winning much of anything. So then Ben come along, and I'm watching this career play out. And as you said, I see these fans just getting more spoiled. And I said, you know what? There's going to be life after Ben. Believe it or not, all you know is Ben. When this comes and goes, you're going to get a feel of what the 80s felt like for the Steelers. You're going to get a feel of what the 90s. So, excuse me, I think that's what a lot of fans are experiencing now. And people are losing their mind because that's all they knew. Kids that are, probably your age, maybe a little bit younger, they only knew Ben Roethlisberger. So, this is, I understand. I lived through it. But again, you see people dealing with that. And I always said that was one thing that came out of my mouth, Mike, how many times there's going to be life after Ben. So you nailed that one right on the head. Derek, so we have the Cincinnati Bengals this week. Possibly, as I said, you could play, maybe Houston. That's who I want. They scored 2 points against Baltimore. I like our chances in this game. Then, of course, I think a couple of the lower seed. I don't know who there's possibilities. I know one of them's Houston. I kind of have my mind set on it. But we get into the playoffs. Say we do get that first win. Do you think that this football team, Derek, could build a little bit of momentum, maybe squeak a second round win out as well? This team, I mean, the money that's paid into the defense, for one. Yes, we're kind of skimping it on offense, but I think we could get a second round win out of this team, right?
I mean, I would say yes, but also it's like it's also tough to say yes,
Right.
Based off the last 3 weeks, because you're only as good as your last game, and then,
Right.
couple that with the 2 weeks before, it's kind of tough to say that with conviction right now. But if we do come in and get that first win, and especially if we're able to go ahead and beat Cincinnati, then you get a win in the playoffs, and it's just that momentum starts to build. And it really, it comes down to matchups. I think if we come in, if we match up against, say, like what the next round would probably be against Buffalo potentially.
Probably.
I mean, that's a very good team, but I do think that those teams, the Steelers and the Bills, are built similarly without taking out Josh Allen, which is obviously a big takeout, but from the standpoint of the style of football that they want to play, defense, run the football type deal. I think that I would say yes that we could get a win, but it's just not something that I would say like absolutely right now.
You're right. I wouldn't be putting my money on it if I was
Yes,
gambling.
there you go. That's a good way to say it.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree. Let me ask you this, Derek. Would you say the difference between the Steelers and the upper echelon teams in the league, of course, the teams we just seen in this that 3-game span, would you say the difference between us and those teams are the quarterback position? I would take, as you mentioned, Allen, I would take him in a heartbeat. I would take Patrick Mahomes in a heartbeat. Any of these teams that are in that upper echelon, they kind of have that guy that you would just take in a minute. Is that the difference? Because as you mentioned, we're built similar to the Buffalo Bills, but you know what? Every time we play them, they seem to put up 40 points, as they do against everybody. But is that what separates the Steelers right now from those teams that are above us? Is the quarterback position? That would be my guess. Do you need to have that guy to be successful in the NFL nowadays?
I mean, I would say it seems like you do. It seems like you got to have that guy, or at the very least, have like the guy who can fit within that system with a great
Right.
offensive mind as a coach. But it also kind of brings into question, if you do have that guy at quarterback, a Josh Allen type, a Joe Burrow, then the salary cap. Are you able to build the team
Right.
that are you able to build the team that you want to build from a defensive standpoint, offensive line? And that's, for me, that's when it starts to get over my head. I'm just like,
Yeah, right.
give me
It's like
Josh Allen, but like, when it comes down to the numbers, I can't get into that stuff.
Right.
it's like you have to have like your team in place and get lucky with a quarterback on their rookie contract to win a Super Bowl in their like third, fourth year, and then figure out, okay, are we going to pay them and blow the team up, or keep the team intact and try our luck again with another quarterback?
Yeah, and I mean, with the just kind of the rise in 7-on-7 high school sports training and all that stuff, and then college, the quarterbacks, they're coming out every year. So it really comes down to, in my opinion, it comes down to a scouting thing, to where the scouting department, general manager, when they do their due diligence, I mean, and I feel like they should I don't want to say easily, because that's definitely not going to be easy, but I feel like we should be able to find a solid quarterback, just with the amount of quarterbacks that are coming out each year.
Let me ask you this. Does it make sense? Does it make more sense to, because we're kind of in a catch-22, Derek, because we do have a coach that gets us a 500 record or better every year. Now you're not getting you're not getting great picks in the draft where you could pick up one of these top 2-3 quarterbacks that come out. Would we be in any better position to try to get our guy via free agency? For example, somebody like a Sam Darnold, somebody who's still young enough, that's been in the league for a few years, that's shown that he's not a bust, and he could go to Minnesota and win 14 games, which is pretty amazing, and possibly be the number 1 seed by the end of the weekend. So, would it make more sense? Because again, it's going to be tough to get one of those guys in theory. Of course, Tom Brady comes in the 6th round. But would it be easier to go that route, or would it be easier to spend out a little bit of money, maybe cut some of the fat off the defense of some of the older guys that we're paying a lot of money to, and put it toward that quarterback position to fix things on the offense? Derek, which route do you think would be a more effective route for the Steelers to take to get their guy?
I mean, I feel like with this team now, I feel like the team right now is, in a certain sense, we're built to win.
Yes.
So I do feel like the free agency route probably would be the best, as far as winning now and being able to fit in on this team. But it's also one of those things, like free agency, it in itself is a crapshoot, because you don't really know what you're gonna get. Sam Darnold, until he got there with Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings this year,
Yeah.
he hasn't really performed very well in his career. And then on the flip side of that, you see Kirk Cousins, who was there for how long, and then he went to Atlanta and he didn't perform very well.
It's true.
So it's like, you look at it and it's very easy to say, hey, this guy's going to be in free agency and he did this at this team, so let's bring him in. But then you got to throw in just all the different variables of, offensive line, weapons, system, all of those different things. So, I guess there's really no simple solution.
You're right. If it was easy, everybody would figure it out and everybody would do it. And there's a reason that that's not happening. Guys, we don't want to keep Derek too much longer. Let me just kind of get your take, Derek. Where do you think that the Steelers are going to, again, got a big game tomorrow night. A lot of people are forgetting that it's Saturday. We got the early game, which is the Ravens and the Browns. And then, of course, we'll know at that point if the division is still in at all. But then we play Cincinnati at home in the evening at 8 o'clock. Derek, realistically, at the end of the day, where do you see this team landing? Just for the rest of the way. I mean, we kind of touched on it earlier. They're gonna make a little run. They're gonna get a playoff
Yeah,
win. They're gonna stumble in one and done. What's your honest opinion, man?
You know what? I mean, I think I'm when it comes to my teams, man, I'm an optimist.
Okay.
So I definitely I have faith in I have faith in Coach Tomlin. So I do think Cincinnati coming into Heinz Field, or excuse me, Acrisure Stadium on a night game for when there's a lot on the line.
Yeah.
I think we're going to be able to pull it off. I think that we're going to pull it off with a big win this week. And to your point, I would like for us to go into Houston. I think we'll be able to get a win down there, and then from there, man, you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
I do think we'll get 2 more wins this season. That's my prediction.
You know what? I hope you're right, Derek. As I said, I think I mean, of course, you want this team to win a Super Bowl every year. Most of the time, it's not realistic. But as you're saying, I think fans are going to be, you get that one playoff win. That's one thing that we're starving. We haven't had a playoff win in 7, 8 seasons
7
now.
years, yeah.
So I think that goes such a long way for this football team. Mike and Finch, anything for Derek on the Steelers? And then I got one more question for him. Then we'll let him get ready to take off. I don't want to keep him all day. Mike, Finch, what do you guys got?
Yeah, I got a question. TJ Watt. A lot of debate around TJ Watt. Is he good or is he overrated?
That's
interesting.
That's actually a debate.
That's been by
believe it or not on this
explain
show.
why
it is.
that is
show,
the debate.
people have debated whether TJ Watt is great or overrated.
I think the argument, Derek, let me digest it, or listen. It's the run game that the people, he's awesome on the pass rush. He gets double teamed. He gets, he gets to the ball. He sacks people. He forces fumbles. He recovers fumbles. But on the run game, now I'm a fan, but there has been people on the show that has argued that a lot of times he runs straight up the field, anticipating a pass play when a running back may just run right through his hole. And,
Sure.
I think we've all seen this. I don't think that's enough to make him not a great player, but things like that are why people saying that he's not as great as the media makes him out to be.
Sure. No, I mean, I guess, people have their opinions, and I think that even great players have their weaknesses. So I think TJ Watt, he might not be, I don't think he's a liability in the run game by any means.
Right.
But at the same time, is that his strength? Probably not. I would say his strength obviously is going to be rushing the passer. He's a ball hawk, forcing fumbles. But my personal opinion, man, he's a great player.
Absolutely.
Yes, he's a great player.
He's a legendary Steeler.
No two ways about it. We've had some debate with some people on the show and some viewers. We definitely wanted to get your take on that. My last question for you, Derek. Of course, we know that again, football and sprinting and basketball, and you do it all. But I do know that your brother, he's into the fighting with the real popular fighting nowadays. Are you involved in this as well, and if you are, do you excel in that sport like you do in every other sport?
I mean, me and my brother, man, we're athletes,
Yes,
at the end of the
absolutely.
day, at the end of the day, I was fortunate. Both of us were fortunate enough to play football at a high level. But we both had some different opportunities in some other sports, more so baseball for him. Myself with track, basketball, and baseball a little bit. But he takes it a lot more serious than I do. And, he did a one and done fight when he was just a couple years. He was 37. He took his first and only fight.
Okay.
And that was pretty impressive. So he got me into doing some jujitsu. I do participate in jujitsu.
Oh, wow.
I wouldn't say like I'm solid. I'm good at it just because I'm a good athlete.
Right.
But I definitely go in there and get my butt kicked pretty often,
Right.
especially if I'm going against him. So yeah, I mean, it's something that I definitely enjoy. I know he really enjoys it. And it's just something to stay active, something for us. From the time we were growing up kids, running around, just playing multiple sports. That's something that we still try to, keep as a part of our lives and staying active. And right now for him specifically and me, I guess secondarily, jujitsu and MMA to an extent has played a pretty big role in that for us.
That's interesting. A lot of guys, they're really good athletes. They get, they do their thing. They make their accomplishments, and then they go to golf. Not the Moyes. They go to beating people's heads in, and I love this. I love it.
That's
It's-
Western PA for you.
That's
baby.
right.
Yeah, man. I mean, similar to golf, man. It's one of those things that's very humbling, because I go in there. I work out, like I lift weights and I run a lot.
Yes.
I'll go in there and I think I'm in great shape. I'm 6'5", 205 pounds. I think, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna dominate all these guys. And I go up against a 5'10", 170-pound guy, and he's got me in a pretzel.
You're right.
And
Right.
so it's like you walk out of there and you're like, okay, maybe I'm not as bad as I think I am. Maybe I got some things I need to work on.
No, it's interesting. As I said, I see your brother's involved, and again, I've talked to him, and I'm very again more things to be proud of you guys about. But I just had to find out, because I swear at one point I did see you in a picture doing some kind of, was either martial arts or the fighting, and I thought, okay, I got to make sure I ask Derek about that. Derek, so many stars out of your high school. And I know them better than anybody because I'm from across the river and we got beat by you every year. Let me ask you, I'm going to throw some names out there and you tell me who the one really stands out to you as a star out of that particular high school. Let me start with Essex Law. Damian Council, Brian Burton, Amir Dudley, Reuben Jackson, the Griffins, yourself, your brother. Look at these names. This is what we had to put up with every year. This is what we had to try to figure out every year, Manaka. Derek, of those names, who's the GOAT in your opinion from Rochester High School?
Man, I mean, that's you name all those names, man. That's kind of like, that's tough, man. It puts me on the spot just because all of those guys, man, just like, I remember being a kid watching Amir Dudley, being a big fan of him, and just like the style of play. He was a big, tall running back who had a long stride, and just like it was a sight to kind of see him get in the open field and run. And then Reuben Jackson on the other side of that, just like that little scat back that just like kind of is here 1 second, then he's not.
Yes.
Obviously my brother's teams and the Griffins, I was managers for those state football teams, so I got to see them up close and personal, and what they were able to do. But I mean, I think that if you talk to Rochester people, I think there's going to be one name that stands out above everybody else, and that's going to be Essex Law.
I would agree.
I think he's that guy that kind of had all of the ability, could do anything on a football field as a running back, and was a man amongst boys in high school.
Yes.
So I think when you talk about Rochester football, I think he's the first name.
Oh no.
Oh no.
All right, we might pop back in. We did lose Derek, but guys, so far really great talking to him, learning a lot of things about Penn State, about these Pittsburgh Steelers, and about the just about Derek Moye. So whether he can or he can't make it back in, I don't know. So we won't. We'll continue on here. Let's get back to some of these messages on the board. Let's see. Corey Beaver says we need more effective play calling on offense. We have the talent, of course, with the Steelers. I think that's where he's going.
Derek's back.
Okay.
I don't know. Is that my connection?
I don't know. If it was yours, we certainly apologize.
Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
sorry about that.
No, you're good. But Essex Law. And then of course his brother James, and so many great athletes. And when I was in high school, the big matchup was Rochester Farrell. And there was a gentleman named Lorenzo Stiles, and I do believe his son plays for Ohio State right now.
Got two up there.
Okay. That was one of the best games at that point in my life, and watching high school football, seeing two men amongst boys, as you mentioned, Essex Law versus Lorenzo Stiles. It was at Rochester High School. I think Farrell ended up winning the game by a couple points. It was like a 13 to 12, something like this. And I tell you what, Derek, at that point, I just remember thinking, these guys, these are the best of the best. These guys are going pro. Of course, Lorenzo did spend a little bit of time in the NFL. Essex, I think, should have. But at the end of the day, I don't think anybody's going to disagree with you. If you're talking Beaver County, maybe you go over to across the river and you could throw another Law gentleman into the conversation about, guys that just successful guys went from high school football to having a successful pro career. But no two ways about it. I would have loved to see and follow and support Essex if he would have continued his career. But I don't think there's any argument on that one, Derek.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And I think just you kind of got my brain going a little bit. You're talking about Farrell, man. I always talk about the single A football, man. I think a lot of times people really like to discredit and discount single A football. And, now it's a little bit different from what it was, in the era that you're talking about. And, a little bit when I played, but even more so before when I played. Some of those teams, those Western Beaver teams, Monaca, Southside Beaver,
Southside.
Farrell, Rochester. Like
I
those
mean,
are
you
some
put
really legit teams with big, solid physical linemen. And a lot of times, there were some big, solid physical running backs, both that will get downhill and run you over, and also some guys who could get downhill and and make you miss.
And as you said, during that particular time when it was Farrell, Rochester, Monaco, Western Beaver, and Southside, that was 5 of the teams from the Big Seven. I mean, that was a tough conference. No two ways about it. You had guys going Division One. You had guys making it to the pros. So very impressive. What certainly the single way right here in Beaver County could do, and a little bit outside with the Farrells and teams like this. But very, very, very big time football for single A, and I think you're 100% right on that. People just make they say, oh, it's single A. How good could these guys be? Very deceptive here in Western PA. No two ways about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Guys, anything else for Derek? I do want to let him get going here. He probably has a lot to do. We are hitting noon on Friday here on the 2W Yinzers show. I'm glad that everybody joined us today. Derek Moye, former standout at Penn State. We did talk to him a little bit about the Penn State football team in the playoffs, getting another win, getting ready for Notre Dame next Thursday. Also, a little bit about the Pittsburgh Steelers and their road ahead. Basically, we got Cincinnati tomorrow, and then the playoffs start next week. A little bit about himself. He likes to, kick people in the head and things like this. We learn. But guys, anything else? Because we are going to let Mr. Moye go here shortly. Finch, Mike, what do you got?
No, I just want to say thanks again for coming on to the show. And it was nice to talk to someone about Penn State football and Western
and not
PA.
have it argued.
Normally it's Pitt Panther land here, so it's nice to talk to someone about Penn State football. And thank you again for your time coming on the show. We really do appreciate it, man.
Yes, sir.
Finch, anything for you, brother?
All right, I have kind of a funny question, okay? Just think back. I think we've all, at one point, been inside of the old Rochester Sheets in Rochester, PA. Any good memories of any great scuffles or beef getting thrown down there? Because I can think of a few times I'd be in there looking for a sandwich and some hoochie mama out of nowhere would start throwing punches.
Listen, I mean, there's definitely some more than one occasion that I've had some incidents and some good memories there. As you can imagine, both as a young adult and then also as a kid as well. I think at times, being a kid, it would be cool because we would me and my friends, we would walk around town, and we knew that if we come over to Sheets at a certain time of a certain hour of the day, we're going to get some sort of entertainment.
There was going to be something.
You don't know what it's going to be, but there's going to be some sort of entertainment over there. So, we knew just to walk a couple blocks away and just kind of hang out over there and do our best to not, not be the entertainment or get in any trouble. But just kind of see and know you're going to get some sort of show put on. You don't really know exactly what it's going to be.
You hear that, Philadelphia? Sheets 1, Wawa 0.
Yeah, Jody on the board. Go ahead. One quick question if you do have it, because Derek's going to get rolling here. I do see Jody has a question. She says, I have a question about the Steelers. So if you could get that out within the next 30 seconds, Jody, we'll get that out for you. But yeah, no, Sheets, come on. Who doesn't have a good story from the Rochester Sheets, right?
Like, I thought it was bad. I grew up in East Liverpool, and there was some entertainment there. If you've heard of East Liverpool, that small little town right across the river, and then coming over to the Rochester one, it's like I didn't. It's like I'm home. I felt at home.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Yeah.
Go ahead,
So
Mike.
our viewer has a question. Is there a cultural issue with the team, or is it just personal drama between players for the Steelers? And do you think this will affect how they play?
You know what? I mean, I think that's not really a question I'm able to answer because I'm not inside the locker room. I'm not close to it. But I think that I would say that a cultural issue, I would say that there's absolutely not, just because to me, Coach Tomlin is one of, if not the best leader in the NFL. So I just find a hard time to believe that he will allow a cultural issue to become and manifest itself as being an issue throughout the season. But I can't really speak on whether there's issues between the players or not because obviously I'm not there.
No, good question, Jody. Thank you for the question.
Great question.
What is she saying? Because we are seeing this with, I don't know, what's that? Oh, she must be a Seattle fan, I'm guessing. She says because we were seeing this with Gino and DK.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for the question, Jody. But yes, we are going to keep you around much longer, Derek. We do want to thank you so much, my friend. Great talking to you. We sat around in the meetings. We said, well, let's think of good questions. We can talk to Derek, of course, Penn State, the Steelers, all those things you touched on. You hit them with great class and great information, and we're just so lucky to be able to talk to you this Friday. Mr. Moye, is there anything that you want from us, or any questions that you have for us before you take off, man?
No, I appreciate you all having me on the show. I definitely was enjoyable talking to all of you. All three of you. I can tell that y'all are very knowledgeable about football, Steelers football specifically. So I definitely enjoyed talking to you all about that. So thanks for having me on. And as always, we are
Penn State, baby. Oh, I love it. Yes, we got it on
What
the
a great
show,
sign
Ryan.
off. What a
We
great sign
got
off.
it on the show.
Boom.
Boom. What a way to end the week. No, thank you so much, Derek.
Thank you,
Again,
Derek.
great talking to you
Thanks,
about all
Derek.
these things. I've had short passings with you in the past, but to be able to sit down and have these conversations, fantastic. One of my favorite episodes of all of these 668 so far. Derek Moye, everybody, thank you so much. We hope that you have a great new year, my friend. We hope that you're right with your predictions. We'll certainly be cheering on the Penn State Nittany Lions and the Pittsburgh Steelers moving forward. And if you ever need anything from us, sir, do not hesitate to get a hold of us, because our door is always open to you. Derek, thank you so much, my friend. You have a great weekend, and I guess we are, right?
We are. Absolutely.
All right.
Y'all have a great weekend as well.
Thank you, Derek.
Thank
This
you,
was
Derek.
wonderful.
Take
Thank
care,
you.
my friend. All right, guys. So that was Derek Moye. Great job with the questions, guys. Now, Jody's a Packer fan. She's saying on the board.
Like I told her, we won't hold that against her. We won't hold that against her.
No, we won't hold that against you. Guys, a couple things we do want to go over real quick before we do wrap it up for the week. Of course, the Steelers and the Bengals back at it. Chase Brown and one other starter, I forget who it was, they may not play. I said earlier that Chase Brown was out. They said that he may not play. So that's the running back possibly out for this Pittsburgh Steelers squad, or for the Cincinnati Bengals squad against the Pittsburgh Steelers tomorrow night. Mike, there's no way that we could finish up a Friday show without going over the keys to win and the overs and unders. After that, we're going to get the heck out of here and get this weekend started and get ready for some football. Mike, keys to winning this game for you against Cincinnati tomorrow night.
For me, offense, get back on track. Let's establish the run. Let's get that pass game working. Let's get George Pickens back involved. Let's get Freiermuth back involved. Let's get Calvin Austin, work him in on those seam routes. Let's go there. Defensively, you're going to give up big plays to Jamar Chase. You're going to give up big plays to T. Higgins. That's just a fact of life. They've done it to every team in the league, but you have to limit the amount of big plays, keep the run game under control so they can't go play action, and recapitalize on those turnovers. Get back to winning the turnover battle, which we haven't won in the past 3 weeks.
Finch, what about you, man?
Yeah, the offense has to get on track. I mean, hey, we saw the Steelers put up some serious points against the Bengals a few weeks back. There's no reason we can't do it again. I'm hoping that this might be the game that puts us back on track, gets that offense humming. It could happen, and I honestly feel that way. I mean, we've proven we can score with these guys. We've proven that we can do it. We just have to get our heads in the game and take advantage of every mistake that they make. Like Mike said, winning turnovers, the turnover battle has pretty much been one of the biggest things that we've done in all of our wins this season. We've had low scoring games that we've won, and the key factor was getting that turnover late in the game to set up a Boswell field goal. So it's that's where we're at, and we just got to kind of hope that maybe the Bengals aren't on their game this week.
Absolutely. What I think that they got to do, they got to resort back to the 10-3 team. They have to forget everything that happened in the last 3 weeks.
Got to have a short
the fact of
memory
the matter
in football,
is
man.
you're not playing anybody from that gauntlet. You're playing the Bengals. Yes, they have a good offense, but yes, we found a way to put up 44 points against that team last time we played them. We got to turn back to the 10-3 team. We have to turn back to the team that was finding these ways to win. And again, next week, if we do happen to get the Houston Texans, this team is just riddled with injuries. A lot of bad things going on over there for that squad. That's who I want. I want to get that playoff win. And for anything, get the win. But maybe, again, as you said, Finch, you get this win against Cincinnati, you get a win against Houston in the first round. Maybe you start getting that mindset that the 10-3 team had, and maybe you can make something happen in that following round. But until that point, I guess let's enjoy the games. Tomorrow they do wrap up their regular season in week 18 at home against the Cincinnati Bengals. Could more than very likely be the last home game. A lot of weird things would have to happen in order for us to play another one at home in the playoffs. which probably won't happen. So, guys, let's get to these overs and unders, and then we're going to get ready to wrap it up. Let's just do this quick. We don't need a lot of explanation. Mike, I'm going to go to you first. Finch to you, back and forth. Here we go, Mike, on the overs and unders. Russell Wilson, 2.5 touchdowns thrown against this Cincinnati Bengals defense tomorrow. Mike, over or under 2.5 touchdowns?
I'm just going to go completely under.
Okay. Finch, Mike, I'm sorry, Russell Wilson, 2.5 touchdowns thrown.
Yeah, I want to say over. And like I said a minute ago, we've proven that we can do it against Cincinnati. Oh, man, I'm torn on the 2.5. That's a good number. You know what? I'm going to say he gets 3. I'm going to say he does it.
Okay. Guys, we don't know exactly. I mean, it's looking like a possibility, but Najee and Jalen Warren should both be in the lineup tomorrow. If they both play, guys, is it a combined between the two, 105 yards over or under between the two of those? If they both play tomorrow, Mike, Najee and Warren, 105 yards between the both of them, over or under?
Over.
Ooh, interesting. Finch, same question to you. Okay.
Same. I think they're going to do it as long as they're healthy and they're both playing.
George Pickens, 7.5 receptions. Mike, over or under?
Oh, under.
Finch, GP.
Also under. I feel like we're going to be spreading the ball out, and no one particular guy is going to get the ball way, way more than the others this week. I think we're going to see 9, 10, 11 receivers getting plays this week.
All right, GP, a half a touchdown. Mike.
Over.
Finch?
Yeah, I like him getting a touchdown this week. Yes, over.
Pat Fryermuth, Mike, half touchdown.
Under.
Finch?
Give me the over on that one as well. I think it's time for Fryermuth to pick it up. He's had a great season, and I think this might be the week where he really breaks out again, and we need him to do it, man.
Chris Boswell, 3.5 field goals made. Over or under, Mike?
Under.
Finch?
I'm going to go under as well.
Okay. And finally, turnovers. Offense, balls turned over by us. 1.5. 1.5 turnovers tomorrow, Mike, over or under?
Offensive turnovers?
Yeah.
Under.
Finch?
Under as well.
All right. Let's hop on the other side of the ball. Turnovers caused. 2.5, Mike. 2.5 turnovers caused by the Steelers defense against the Bengals tomorrow.
2.5. That might be just a half too high. I'm going to take the under.
All right, Finch.
Also taking the under.
Mike, Cam, a half a sack. Does Cam have a half sack tomorrow?
Yes.
Finch, does Cam have a half sack?
No, I don't think so.
All right.
Under.
TJ Watt, a half a forced fumble tomorrow, Mike. TJ Watt, a half a forced fumble.
You know what? Yes. Yes.
Ooh. All right. Finch, TJ Watt.
I'm taking the over. I think TJ is going to step back into the mold this week and start chopping that ball again, which he has been so effective with the last few seasons.
All right. Well, he's got a punch, you know. I need to get punched by that guy.
Yeah.
Alex Highsmith, Mike, a half sack there.
Over.
Finch?
Over.
Starting secondary, a half an interception. Starting secondary, a half an interception.
Yeah, they're gonna get one.
Finch?
Yeah, I think they will. Burrow, he wings the ball a lot, so there's that just ups the opportunity to get one, and I think they might do it.
And finally, guys, the question that we all know and hate right here on the Two Dumb Yinzers is this: is there going to be a half of devastating injury to a Pittsburgh Steeler? That's somebody of some importance, one of the skilled or star players on this team. Or are we going to see a injury that ends their game or season, if you will? Mike, 1/2 a devastating injury, over or under?
Under.
And Finch?
Over.
All right. Guys, also want to say this, as far as the injuries go, Dante Jackson is questionable with his pinched nerve in his back, which, I'm not too thrilled about this with the passing game that we're going to be facing, but I did see that Logan Lee, Roman Wilson, and Cole Holcomb have all been rolled out because there's not enough roster spots. That's what the deal is right now. That's why these 3 guys are not on the active roster this week, because of the roster spots being scarce. So whatever we do in the playoffs, we'll see. But that's what's going on right now, and why they will not be activated. Also, Landry Jones, former Steeler quarterback, he accepted a position as an offensive analyst at Tennessee. He's working for the Tennessee Volunteers. That's Landry Jones. And the Jets interviewed Mike Vrabel We all remember former linebacker here in Pittsburgh, and we've faced him quite a few times in other places. Mike Vrabel will be interviewing for that New York Jets job. Talk about a kamikaze suicide job to me, but you know what? If he takes it, more power to him.
I would not take that job, even with, Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams not coming back. No, I'm steering clear of that because you got the GM more or less listening to his kids saying, "Oh, don't go get this guy because his Madden rating isn't good."
Yeah,
this is why the Jets are terrible.
Yeah, it's a toxic franchise, just like the Bears. Both of these franchises, I don't care who you are. If you're in the running for a head coach job, if it's your first job and you're looking to make the money and get the clout, I still would not go to either one of those places. I would wait it out.
Or the Redskins too, for that matter.
The ownership is just absolutely terrible, and especially the Bears, but also the Jets. I feel bad for anybody that takes any of those jobs, but I do wish Mike Vrabel well. I've always liked that guy, even when he was beating us with the Patriots.
I do want to say, I just want to make it clear, my comment about the Skins just now, generally, they're a good team this year, and I like them, and I like their quarterback, and I like what they have going on, but just in general, that's usually like the Raiders. That's just one of them places that players go to kill their career, and you hate to see it, but it is what it is. I am on board, though. I do like this Washington football team and what they've been able to do with this young quarterback. Let's jump over into the college realm. Mike, of course, and Finch, the game that got postponed the other day got played last night, and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish beat Georgia 23-10. The fifth rank Notre Dame in this whole thing. They will advance to play the Penn State Nittany Lions. So that is going to be Thursday, and then Friday, the Ohio State Buckeyes will be taking on the Texas Longhorns. So the end of next week, we're going to have that'll be down to two teams. Mike's hoping for a big Penn State win.
Yeah, baby.
I mean, these are four pretty good teams: Penn State, Notre Dame, Texas, and Ohio State. I think that this should be a lot of fun, and it has been fun so far, as we did talk about earlier with Derek here on the show. Also, Mike, the Pitt basketball team, they'll be hosting Stanford tomorrow. If you want to get down to the Pete and check out some hardwood action, go down. That game starts at 6:30. Penguins also back in action. That's tonight. They travel down to South Florida to play the Florida Panthers. Penguins come in with a 17-17-5 record. They'll be up against the Panthers, who come in with a 23-14-2 record. That is tonight at 7 p.m. Mike, let's give some attention to a few of these messages. Then we are going to start getting ready to wrap things up for the week. All right, brother?
All right,
man. Find us. I don't even know where we're at here. Can you?
Okay, no. We got. Let's see here. Ron saying we need to expand the coaching staff, and like I said, will they spend the money? And Mark Lund saying according to over at DK Sports, it's not a money issue. It's what Tomlin doesn't want to spend coaching staff to do with the players and what the staff may talk about. But for me, I don't trust DK after everything that's gone down over at that site. But if it's coming from Dale Lawley over there, I might be a grain of truth to that.
How can you trust somebody with a silent J in their first name?
I used to be a big Dayon guy.
Yeah, I was into DK 10 years ago when he broke away from what was it, Post-Gazette or whatever it was.
The stuff that they've come up with over there, a lot of their stuff.
In his age, he's getting a little.
Him personally, a lot of stuff that he says, I don't like him. But I like a lot of the staff over there, and that's why I said if it's coming from Dale Lawley, he's really in tune with that team over there, that locker room. Might be that's why I'd put truth into that if it's coming from him.
Let me jump down a little bit here, Mike. Ron Navy says, and I do want to say, hey, Ron, how you doing, my friend? Ron says, I tried Discord. It's pretty quiet in there. I don't know. That's more Finch's cup of tea. He's the social media guy, and Mike, I guess. I don't know why. Well, that puts you guys both in question. What's going on? Why is it so quiet over Discord?
Well, I addressed Ron. I told Ron, Mike's day job, was working me to the bone.
To be honest, I've been making a concerted effort the last 2 or 3 weeks to not stare at my phone as much, to be perfectly honest with you. And if I'm using Discord, I'm using it on my phone. And I was a big proponent for the service. I told these guys, come on, get a Discord.
It's me.
It's definitely a good platform. And I will, since you brought up that comment, I will definitely make sure to up it a little bit. My mental health needs me to stay the F away from my phone more. You know what I mean? So
the guys, they want to see you guys. They look forward to talking to you. So we'll make sure we get them back on.
It's a mic issue.
Yeah, it's me, not you, Ron.
Let's see. Also, Jody.
No, it's a me thing. I said me.
Well, me, the royal me, as in us.
Oh. Let me get the
All right, so
bow.
Jody did say, "Yep, good luck." Also,
Yeah.
Mark Malone said Tomlin's coaching is completely tainted. The entire secondary, we are going to get carved up. Corey did say the defense is tired because the offense can't keep up. Same shit every season. It's tiring. I try to stay optimistic, but it's getting very difficult to at this point in the season. Also, Jody said, "Can the Steelers get Washington more involved? That your tight end? You know what? Right? I don't know. The thing is, when you have a couple of tight ends, it's difficult to get everybody involved. And we got two really good tight ends. I just think at some point, one guy is the veteran, and at another point, Washington, even as big as he is, he will get his turn. But they sprinkle him in. I would like to see more of him as well.
Yeah, me too. Like those quick little out routes to him that he can turn into 5, 6, 7 yard gains that were hitting early in the season. Just haven't been there. Yeah, they need to get back there, scheme it open. Those are quick, easy, cheap yards to get, especially on like first, second down.
Roger said play man defense, no zone. I think you covered that briefly, didn't you, Mike?
Yeah.
Also, Jen lives in Wisconsin. We got the Packers.
We're all caught up, brother.
Yeah, but people that's listening, you can keep up with it if you're reading. I'm just for the people that are listening. Jen, and also it looks like Jody is a Packers fan, which kind of works out because Jen is from Wisconsin. So we also do know, Jody, that the cheese is cheap and a plenty up in Wisconsin.
Cheap and a plenty.
We love cheese.
Oh my gosh, we love cheese.
We are very cheesy here.
Yes. Let's
Jesus
see.
God.
Let me see
I
what
can't.
else.
Jesus Christ.
I'm out. that may be the thing that mentally stabs me today. We are cheesy.
And also,
Might go down a rabbit hole.
And also the guys on the board, Jen included. Everybody said thank you to Derek for joining us today.
Yeah,
Derek was a lot of fun, was great. We do want to say thank you one more time. It was awesome being able to get to talk to him, especially with the things at hand. Don't get me wrong, I would sit around and talk football with Derek any given day of the week, but you have this Penn State playoff game going on. You have the Steelers heading into the playoffs. I thought it was really cool to be able to talk to Derek about that, especially being from right across the river from where I grew up, which is just right down the road from where we're at now. But super awesome getting to talk to him. Mike, why don't you go and tell everybody about the website, man?
The2Yinzers.com. Especially if you're new, go check it out. We have links to all of our social media, more than I have listed here on the YouTube channel. Check that out. Got the merch store over there. The blog will be coming back soon. So yeah, check it all out at the2Yinzers.com.
And make sure to smash that like button.
All right, guys. Question of the day. This is, of course, how well do we know our enemy? Last question for the Bengals. It's Friday. Tomorrow's the big game. Let's go, guys. This is a Bengals question. Mike, Finch, put your thinking caps on. Everybody at home, everybody on the board. Here we go. In the 2020 College National Championship game, how many touchdowns did Joe Burrow pass for when LSU beat Clemson in the national championship game? How many touchdowns did Burrow pass for in that national championship game? Take a minute to think that over, guys. We're live 5 days a week right here, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, every day right here on YouTube. All right, gentlemen. Question of the day. In 2020 College National Championship game, how many touchdowns did Joe Burrow pass for when LSU beat Clemson? Mike, I'm going to start with you. Do you have any guesses?
I want to say 5, but I think it was more than that. I'm going to go with 7.
7? Is this your final answer?
Final answer.
All right, locked into place. Finch, I'm going to come over to you. In 2020 College Football National Championship game, how many touchdowns did Joe Burrow pass for while beating Clemson?
Yeah. The number 6 just jumped to my mind immediately. So I'm just going to go with it and say it was 6.
6, and that's your final answer?
It sure is.
All right, guys. So the amount of touchdowns that Joe Burrow passed for in the national championship game in 2020 against Clemson, 6 and 7 of the official answers here on the board, or right here on the show. Anybody else has any guesses on the board? We'll take a second to let you get that up there. I do want to say he did also run one but that's not going to count for the question. Maybe that's kind of skewing your thought process. I don't know, but the question of the day and answer is this, guys. In 2020 college national championship game, how many touchdowns did Joe Burrow pass for when LSU beat Clemson? 7-6. Right here on the show, Ron Navy says 4 from down in the Panhandle of Florida. The answer, guys, is he threw 5 touchdown passes plus the 1 ran, a total of 6. 5 the answer, guys. You guys was all around at 4, 6, and 7.
Damn.
Were the picks.
So I was right. He did have 6 touchdowns. Just 5 of them were passing.
100% true.
I'm just looking for anything I can get. I'm grasping.
My man's looking for a W.
And I was, I was willing to give it to you there, guys.
That's okay.
Before we start to wrap things up, Mike, Finch, anything about the Steeler game you want to say? Because again, next time I see you, the regular season is going to be over, and we'll be getting ready to head into the playoffs.
Just win, baby. Just win. Let's channel Al Davis and just win.
All right, Finch.
Yeah, just got to go out there, play the game, and push it. The playoffs start now. We won't be eliminated by any stretch by losing this game, but you need to have that playoff mentality. And if Mike Tomlin can enforce that with his players, there's a good chance we can get the win and go into the playoffs with a head of steam.
All right, I agree with both you guys. On one hand, I mean, it's bittersweet. You get to the end, it's time for the playoffs. That's what you wait. That's what you want all your season. All off season. You can't wait to see how far your team can get. But when you're here, I mean, guys, the season could be over next week for us. Unfortunately, you don't want that to happen, and it may not happen, but that is the reality. We're going to play the Bengals today. Tomorrow we're going to wrap up the regular season, see how we fare, see what Baltimore does before we play. And then once the weekend's over, again, no Monday Night Football. Regular season will be over the next time I do see you guys. And, heading into the following week, that could certainly be the last game. We hope not, and I don't think it is going to be. But that's where we're at, guys. It's bitter. It's sweet. It's a little bit of everything. I do want to say thank you to everybody for coming and hanging out with us today. I do want to say thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We appreciate you 100 million times. Just thank you so much. You've been a lot of support for us, over 668 episodes. You've been great. I do want to say I do want to start the year off with a nice little thank you to everybody. I want to say thank you to everybody on the board. You guys always keep things interesting. And, like I say all the time, we would not be able to even do this if it wasn't for you guys. So thank you so much. On the board, listening on YouTube, however you may enjoy the show.
It's so entertaining reading the board sometimes, man.
It really is.
You see these back and forths, like in today's, I've seen some back and forth with Mark and Ron and Mike here under the Two Dumb Yinzers account. I love that stuff. And if you go back and watch this video and you see me randomly laughing with a muted microphone,
but it plays such a big role in the show. You guys, I don't even know
that's
if you
the fun
know
part. That's what makes it fun.
If the people that are doing the commenting even realize it, but you guys are such a big part of the show.
We see every one of them, dudes. We see every one of them. Just because we don't mention it on air or whatever, we do see every one of them. And if you make a great comment, we do read them when we can. And I'm very appreciative of this group and you guys for accepting me into the Two Dumb Yinzer sphere. Awesome, and happy New Year to all of you.
You feel like a puzzle, man. We've been nothing but happy with the way things are going with the personnel.
Well, I mean, you and I have been talking football for over 20 years, Ryan.
Absolutely.
So just now we're going to incorporate the rest of the crowd.
I told Mike about the dream that I had over the holiday.
Uh-oh.
I fell asleep on the couch, and I woke up, and Finch was standing there, right? I said, Finch, what are you doing, man? At the studio, you're not supposed to be here. And he says, I'm not Finch. I am the ghost of Christmas past. So he takes me 20 years back. And we're standing there at Christmas time talking sports where we used to work. We were talking about UConn, as a matter of fact, I think, Finch, the UConn basketball team. And
oh, yeah, they were really great back at that time. Yeah, those mid-2000s, UConn, Pitt, Syracuse. That was some
I said, basketball. Finch, we got to have a show one day. Let's have a show. And these things weren't even invented. What we're doing right now, people didn't do this. It wasn't even the technology.
Well, we definitely discussed having radio shows. Being on the radio is something that you and I both have always had a little bit of a passion for, being big fans of sports talk and also stuff like Howard Stern and whatnot.
Absolutely.
We used to talk about that a lot. So, yeah, your dream is not out of the realm of possibility.
So after I seen this, I jumped awake, startled, of course, and I look over in the corner of the studio, and there was Mike working hard on the computer. And I said, Mike, what are you doing here? He says, I'm not Mike. I'm the ghost of Christmas present. And I looked at him. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he goes, come here. And he showed me on the computer and he said, look at all this cool stuff that we're doing. And I said, you know what? That's really awesome, man. We always, a friend of mine, we always talked about doing stuff like this. Anyway, long story short, I would leave the room to go to the bathroom, and the Grim Reaper was standing in the kitchen with Derpy's face. It was the ghost of Christmas future. Derpy, there he was with that stupid little panda face inside the Grim Reaper robe.
Boom.
And he said, I said, Derpy, what are you doing? I'm just going pee. And he goes, I'm not Derpy. I'm the ghost of Christmas future. And he showed me this show that we're doing, and he showed me the great success that we're having and we're going to have. And there it was, guys. I was Ebenezer Scrooge in that particular dream that I had. I, guys, seen things the way that Ebenezer seen it, and I now have a new look into things and a new life and a new way of seeing things. And that is why I want to say I'm especially thankful to everybody for sticking around and listening to my ridiculous story and dream. But I do want to say thank you, everybody, again for joining us. Mike, Finch, anything else before we roll for the weekend, guys?
Have a good weekend, everyone.
I miss you, Derpy. Boom.
Oh, boom. My other thing is this, man. Did our guest today make us look like we were three ugly dudes or what? Man, we
What a fine looking gentleman.
You know what it looked to me like? Remember Sesame Street? Which one of these things did not belong?
Yeah, right.
We were the three ugly guys, and the guest
I
was
gotta
certainly
say,
he was not, but
I'm gonna say my side of the screen from top to bottom was just filled with sex appeal from top to bottom.
I thought,
That
man, we
side
got
of
to
the
start
screen
getting ugly
was
again.
ignored. I
Sex
don't know
appeal,
what was
get
going
out.
on over there. Okay, just straight sex appeal.
I think
top to
sex
bottom.
appeal is the wrong kind of SA that you're talking about there, brother.
But guys, I think that's going to be it for me. If that's everything for you, then that's going to be everything for us. Everybody have a fantastic weekend. Get out, cheer the Steelers. They do play at home tomorrow. If you're getting down to the game, going to tailgate, have a good time. Be careful. Stay safe out there. Be sure to, make sure you get home safe and with your family. That's what it's all about. We'll see everybody on Monday, first thing. Talk about the Steeler game. Get ready to head into the playoffs and all the other stuff going on in sports as well. College football, Penguins, a lot of different things. So do join us back first thing on Monday morning for the Two Dumb Yinzers. We're Jeff Finch, we're Mike Muller, and we're Ryan Garazunas here with the Two Dumb Yinzers. Everybody have a great weekend. Go Steelers.